what revenue is before expenses and earnings, net income, is after expenses. Is that
No, I think like when people go to work, they say my earnings were this. I mean, that's their salary. So I think we tend to look
No,
at
I'm not
accounting
talking.
definitions.
They may say that, but when you analyze a financial statement, you look at expenses, don't you? You don't just equate revenue with earnings, do you?
Totally. And I think your
Okay,
suggestion that we think companies are too profitable, we think about competition.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Hot News Today, where we break down the biggest moments happening in Washington with real talk and no sugarcoating. Listen, I just watched one of the sharpest, most entertaining, and honestly necessary grillings I've ever seen on Capitol Hill. Senator John Kennedy absolutely walked into that hearing armed with basic economics, common sense, and a couple of questions that the agency director clearly wasn't ready for. And let me tell you, when Senator John Kennedy starts asking about the difference between revenue and earnings, you know somebody's about to get exposed. This hearing is the perfect example of why oversight matters and why we need people like Senator John Kennedy who aren't afraid to cut through bureaucratic fog and say, "Hold up, that doesn't make sense." If you're tired of agencies dodging simple questions, tired of government pretending complexity excuses incompetence, and you want leaders who actually read the law, you're in the right place. Stick around, because after the video I'm diving deep and giving you my full take on what went down. Before we roll the clip, hit that like button, subscribe to Hot News Today, and ring the bell so you never miss a breakdown like this. All right, let's get into it.
I always enjoy your testimony. When I look for a common thread running throughout your testimony, and I look at your agency's behavior, one of the common threads I see is that, and I'm not going to ask you to comment on this, is that in your judgment, some companies in America are making too much money. Now, when you analyze their financial statements, do you not?
Sure.
Do you distinguish between revenue and earnings when you analyze a financial statement?
Well, sure. We look at all things, and I would say that we
What's
don't
the
think of
difference
too much
between
money.
revenue and earnings?
Well, these are all used colloquially. Sometimes those are similar. In GAAP accounting, which is what most U.S. companies use.
Don't tell me about GAAP. Just tell me your understanding of the difference between revenue and earnings.
Well, I can share with you revenue and net income. So those are the two factors that when you say are on financial statements.
Earnings is another word for net income.
Well, earnings can be used for many different things, but in generally accepted accounting principles, net income is what all of our banks are really using.
Okay. What revenue is before expenses and earnings, net income, is after expenses. Is that
No, I think like when people go to work, they say my earnings were this. I mean, that's their salary. So I think we tend to look at accounting definitions.
They may say that, but when you analyze a financial statement, you look at expenses, don't you? You don't just equate revenue with earnings, do you?
Totally. And I think your
Okay,
suggestion that we think companies are too profitable, we think about competition.
I understand.
What are the options people have
here's
in order to...
Here's what is confusing me. We all know, unless you were playing Frisbee in the quad during Econ 101 or Accounting 101, there's a difference between revenue and earnings. I want to ask about the way you're funded. I looked at Congress's statute. I'm looking for it here. It says, here's how you're funded. And you just won your lawsuit in the Supreme Court. Each year, beginning on the designated transfer date, in each quarter thereafter, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, where you get your money, shall transfer to your agency from the combined earnings of the Federal Reserve System the amount determined by the director to be reasonably necessary to carry out the authorities of the Bureau. It says the combined earnings, not the revenue. Now, for the longest time, the Federal Reserve was earning money, but that stopped. in what, September of 2022? Now, they are losing money. They don't have any earnings. They're no longer transferring earnings to the general fund. And the Supreme Court based its decision on saying that this funding scheme is constitutional under the Appropriations Clause by saying that these earnings would go to the general fund from the Federal Reserve, so getting them directly from the general fund is no big deal. How are you entitled to any money right now? The Federal Reserve doesn't have any earnings.
Well, we've heard of this theory. I think it's one of the latest ones.
It's not a theory. It's a congressional statute.
Well, I think there's you raise the difference between revenue and net income. There are other places throughout our laws. I can tell you we've looked at this issue. We do believe wholeheartedly everyone is complying with the statute.
I know you believe that, but if you look at what, if you read,
I'm aware with what you said,
if you
revenue
read,
and net
if you
income.
read the, if I could just finish my question.
Sure.
If you read the opinion, and I did, and you read the statute, it says here, bigger than Dallas, the federal, you can only get your money from the Federal Reserve out of earnings. Now, the Federal Reserve has not had any earnings since September of 2022. Isn't that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Sure, it's
from
correct.
a net income
All
perspective,
you have to do is
you're
go,
right. But they've generated lots
go
of
ask
fees
OMB.
and income. And I appreciate what you're saying. I'm happy to discuss this with you, but I think we've looked at this.
My point is everything, every penny you've gotten under this congressional
I don't think
statute,
Congress wanted
every
the
penny
CFPB to be
that
suddenly
you've gotten, if I could
defunded.
finish my thought.
Sure.
I know you don't like to hear this, but the law is the law. You've been operating illegally.
No, that's not true, sir.
Yes, you have. There have been no earnings. Doesn't this put in jeopardy every one of your rules?
We've heard this
and
theory
every
before,
one
and
of
I'm happy to
and
discuss
every
it.
well, you're going to hear it again because it's the law. We didn't say revenue in the statute. We said earnings. How can you possibly argue that the Federal Reserve has had earnings? They're losing money.
I'm happy to discuss this with you, but we have looked at this theory before.
I know you have, but
Yeah.
I'm over. I'm sorry. Tell me why you're mad at Chase Bank.
You're not that sorry, Senator Kennedy, but go ahead.
You're mad at PayPal and Chase Bank. Can you tell me real quickly before Sharon cuts me off why you're mad
I
now
think
at PayPal and Chase
the
Bank?
concern is that we have seen an incident at PayPal where there was an attempt to censor people based on their speech. We've also seen that those companies are now going to be offering reportedly advertising based on your individual transaction data. I feel some of this is something we all need to figure out
Are
together.
you going to punish every company that has censored people's speech?
No, I do think.
I applaud that part.
Oh, I think
But do
censorship
you have
is
to
a big
approve?
problem.
Senator Kennedy,
You have to
time's
approve the
expired.
speech
Senator-
first?
No, I think
Time's
we should.
expired.
I think we're on the same page.
I'm over. I'm sorry. Thanks for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
You're not sorry, and I wasn't indulging you, but thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Warren,
Well,
recognized.
I'm sorry as I could be. I will send you later
Senator
a
Warner, Virginia.
fruit basket to make up for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Roll the snippet. All right, now that we've all seen that, let's talk about what just happened, because Senator John Kennedy just put on a masterclass in how to hold a federal agency accountable. First of all, Senator John Kennedy did something extremely simple yet powerful. He asked the agency director if he understood the difference between revenue and earnings. A basic question. Econ 101. Accounting 101. It should have taken 3 seconds to answer. But instead, the director danced around it like someone trying to explain how a microwave works to avoid admitting they never plugged it in. And that's the whole point. Senator John Kennedy wasn't asking for a dictionary definition. He was exposing a larger issue. The agency, by law, can only be funded through the Federal Reserve's earnings. But the Federal Reserve has had no earnings since September 2022 because it's been losing money. And yet the agency director wants us to believe everything is totally fine and perfectly legal. This is where Senator John Kennedy shines. He reads the statute. He reads the Supreme Court decision. He connects the simplest dots possible. And when Senator John Kennedy says, it says earnings, not revenue, and there are no earnings, that's not politics. That's just the law, plain and simple. You could see the director struggling because Senator Kennedy wasn't letting him hide behind jargon or vague explanations. Senator Kennedy pinned him down on the facts, and the facts didn't move. Then we pivot to the end of the hearing where Senator Kennedy asks why the director is mad at PayPal and Chase Bank, and suddenly we hear concerns about censorship, speech policing, and companies using your financial transaction data to build advertising profiles. And honestly, Senator Kennedy is right to dig into that too. Because if a federal agency can't even explain its own funding structure, what makes us think it should be leading the charge on regulating speech or data privacy? The best part? Senator John Kennedy does it all with humor, charm, and razor-sharp logic. He makes complex issues feel simple because, frankly, they are simple when you strip away the bureaucratic fluff. My takeaway: this hearing should be a wake-up call. If an agency is operating without legally valid funding, that puts every rule, every regulation, every enforcement action on shaky ground. And Senator John Kennedy is one of the few willing to say it out loud. That's why reactions like this matter. That's why oversight matters. And that's why Senator John Kennedy's voice is important in the halls of Congress. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more fiery, fact-packed reactions like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me your favorite moment from the hearing. This is Hot News Today, and I'll see you in the next one.